Helen Keller once said that a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. I know that everyone's heard the saying, no regrets, or you only live once. Well, so have I. These sayings can inspire a lot of stress, even when they're supposed to be encouraging or even funny. I'm from Colorado. My family would go camping in Wyoming almost every weekend. We would go hiking and visit my grandparents all the time. But when I was 5, my grandma, we called her Grammy, she passed away. My dad's side of the family lived in Illinois. He was worried about Grandpa being on his own, so my parents decided that we were going to move closer to family. We lived with my papa for a while. It was weird and hard because grief makes people act in a different way. At the time, though, I thought this was just some super cool adventure. The thought incinerated when I walked up during the wake and saw my funny, loud, and outgoing grandma in her pretty red dress and realized she wasn't going to wake up. We weren't going to explore her collection of porcelain eggs ever again. I had to go up twice. My younger brother didn't understand, but then again, we were only like 4 and 5. A couple of months later, we moved into our new house. I started to meet new people, and everything started to seem to be turning up. I was living large, but I started to worry about my parents and that they would get sick. Even a little cold, it meant that they were going to die. I started worrying about being left alone after my parents die in the far future. I thought that all the little sounds that my house made was someone trying to get in. But most of all, I started to fear change. I wanted everything to stay the same. No aging, no accidents, never getting rid of anything. These fears started to take effect after my great-grandma developed dementia, which just added to the pile. I was afraid of forgetting things now as well. I was a mess. My fears manifested in lack of sleep, high-speed come parts after the lights turned off, and poorly checked emotions. My parents, kudos to them, they were always there for me. They always tried to help me, but in the end, it was up to me to decide that I didn't want to live like that anymore. Of course, I didn't figure that out until much later. Mind you, I'm like 9 at this point. I tried all these different ways to help me calm down enough to sleep. I tried sound machines, rhythmic breathing, and sleeping with my parents. The last one didn't fly for very long. Nothing was working for me. Even though I was practicing martial arts, hoping it would give me more skills to cope, it made me think of all the reasons why I had to be prepared to protect myself. My parents are pretty Catholic and would encourage me to do a few Hail Marys to see if it would calm my fears. Eventually, I came around to praying. I recited prayers all the time, and they were ultimately one of the reasons I was able to cope with my anxiety. My nights started to get easier. I was praying and sleeping with a dryer because I drowned out the sounds of my creaky old house. I also started to be more physically active during the day in order to wear myself out. And I stopped needing the dryer. I sleep like a rock now. My imagination can really take a small thing and run. This was scary, especially since I understood these things probably a little bit more than I should have at that age. This whole thing took a lot longer than I would have thought or liked, but I really am thankful for it. I learned how to control my emotions and how to put things into perspective. These helped me through the death of my grandma a few years ago. I feel like I was more helpful to my mom during this time. It wasn't any easier, but I was able to accept and move on smoother. Sorry. Change isn't a bad thing. It's actually the opposite. Time won't stop even when you really want it to. The key is to get up, find the solution, and shoot towards it head on. Luckily, I kept it with my martial arts training, and now it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, helping me feel safe, strong, and confident. Plus, life is more fun when you can accept the fact that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will end up changing for the better.